District Literacy Coach, currently assigned to Kingston and Lyme. And this is our first 2-hour session of our literacy for this year, for the 2017-2018 school year. And I'm thrilled to be a part of this amazing team. This morning, our whole goal is to get you acquainted with the materials. That's the whole goal of this morning, navigating those new materials. Many of you know early literacy is one of my passions, just a little bit. I took my first early literacy course when I was 17 years old at Purdue, and it's been a part of me. Yeah, you can. You can. Go Boiler Babes. Yeah, you can. But there's been an extensive amount of research for the past 38 years that keeps us fresh, keeps us going, keeps us moving. And the resources that HUSD Adoption Committee selected for early literacy far surpass anything I've ever seen. It's not your mama's, as I quote Paulo Condraco, it's not your mama's guided reading anymore.
We were going to get stickers to put, and so you might want to do this when you get with your book, put a sticker here that said, "Ain't your mama's."
Irene Fountas and Pinnell were trainers of mine and trainers of Paula and Kathleen and Julie, so we know these ladies well. We wish they would have made responsive teaching across the grades the title. That's the subtitle, because it's not just guided reading in here. But we are truly fortunate to once again be on the cutting edge of 21st century early literacy for our children. Can't forget to thank Daryl Nicolaisen and Ann Franz, Anita and her team in Heinemann, along with Nadra Ostrom, who is our rep. We are delivering the first orientation of Fountas Pinnell Classroom in the country on the 17th and today, and they have pulled out all the stops to make sure you had your 4 books before you went off for summer, to make sure we have some lesson folders for you to look at so you can actually see the materials. They have really just supported us greatly. So I'm going to pass it off to my teammates with Paula. She's going to dance. We decided hip-hop or interpretive. I don't know what we decided on.
You would know that Paulette and I have the same name almost because, well, and I don't know if you know that her family calls her Paula. But we're very much alike in a lot of ways, but very different in other ways. So how many of you were around when I said sandbelt know what that is? So we still have, okay, since Paulette told me I can't, I won't use the word old, but I own it. I'm old. I'm good with that. But so sandbelts came around. For those of you who came after that, sandbelt was a San Bernardino early literacy team, and it was a county-wide literacy effort. And that was where when a lot of us started doing these things. That was the first time well, actually it wasn't the first time I heard of Reading Recovery, but it's the first time I knew what it was, and that was the time when we brought it to the district. And so we started doing some really good things in literacy, and then along came 97 standards, let's teach to the test. And, you know, some of those really good things that we were doing, a lot of us didn't let go of it, but they're good teaching. And I was so excited to see that when something is really good, it sticks around and it fights through the politics and whatever. So I'm really excited about this. And by the way, how many of you have already had your hands on this book before? I know my team over here has. We did a little book club on it at Juniper, and we loved it, right? There's really good stuff. So, you know, Catherine also is not old, but she's been teaching for a very long time.
Although she had my child when he was in first grade, but we won't tell anybody how old he is.
That's right. So, but there's wonderful things in there, and so even, you know, and so when we first got this book, we went, oh my God, okay, because it's big, right? It's like there's a lot of stuff in here, but it's an easy read. You guys are going to love it. And so now I'm going to turn it over to our next colleague, Julie Bird. Now you get to have it. Go dance. I don't really know why I'm holding this, but I have something to do, yes. So this is my first year as a coach, first year out of the classroom. It has been wonderful and refreshing, and I'm working with some amazing ladies. It has been awesome. So I also have been a part of Sandbelt and Reading Recovery. Is that me? No. Oh. And have gone, I'm only 20 chapters in, and I already know that I'm going to have to go back and reread it. So much in there. I've read the old version, but this thing has just so much to it. It's really deep. So really excited about kind of showing, my two sites, how to implement this. And I, have talked to my principals and, talked to them about not just the strategies for K2, but how we could use those strategies, those K2, but also use them for the National Geographic 236. There's a lot of really good strategies that could be used all the way through. So looking forward to that. And I am introducing not my sister, but also a bird, Kathleen Bird.
Which I always get asked if I'm related to Julie and Larry. So I'm Kathleen Bird. I'm the coach at Mesquite Trails and Cypress School of the Arts. And I was lucky to be in the first group of teachers that Hesperia trained in Read and Recovery back in 1997. So I just want to say that I think Read and Recovery is the best early intervention for our first graders, hands down. It's in John Hattie's Visible Learning. It's in the Clearinghouse. But I'm excited because the Literacy Continuum also has all the components that will just help support and help us go deeper with our babies, K2, so that hopefully we're sending them on to third grade and our third grade teachers are going to be like, oh my gosh, they're reading, what can I do now? So I'm really excited. I know my schools have purchased the Literacy Continuum for their 3rd through 6th grade teachers too. I'm going to see if we can get the new guided reading book for them too. Hint it, Mr. Sheffield. So I believe I'm introducing my partner in crime, Linda Picht.
So hello, I'm one of the coaches. I'm the only one up here not reading recovery trained, just so you know. But my two sites are Carmel and Crystal. And we were talking about the guided reading book, and we've done a book club also at one of my sites. And what's really nice about the book is for us teachers that have experienced guided reading, and we've done it for a few years, there's a lot more we could be looking at. And that's what we get out of this book. For you newer teachers that don't have as much experience in it, there's still a lot in there too. And so you don't have to worry about all those fine little details to start with, because it will seem overwhelming. But just remember, there's always more, and there's more for all of us. All right. So go ahead. I know we have paper sign-ins because I don't trust technology. And I know some of you probably didn't bring electronics either. But if you can, do a quick sign-in. Give you like 3 minutes to do this.
Go ahead and leave your computers up because we are going to be using Google Classroom this morning. So once you register, go ahead and leave your computers up because we will be using Google Classroom this morning. All right, we're going to come back together. If you can hear me, clap once. Can hear me, clap twice. Summer vacation, a bunch of teachers and admin in a room. Transitions, I know, are going to be tough. We're getting Google Classroom up, and in the meantime, would you take a minute to read this to yourselves? I think it gives a good summary of Fountas Pinnell Classroom, but not just Fountas Pinnell Classroom. As Linda has said, Kathleen has said, this Literacy Continuum is pre-K-8. This could be how we roll out Teach Literacy in our district with any materials, whether it be National Geographic or Fountas Pinnell Classroom or anything. This will lay the foundation across the board. How many of you have had any experience with level literacy intervention, actually use the materials? You'll find the same thing with Fountas Pinnell Classroom. As you're teaching it, you're actually learning. It's kind of professional development built in.
If you can go to Google Classroom. Oh, yes.
I always forget.
Okay. If you know how to get to Google Classroom, do you all know where to go? I'm going to give you a code to join a classroom. And if you don't have your device, you can just write it down and do it later. The reason we want you on this is going to be a living classroom that as resources and things come up throughout the year, we're going to add things. A lot of things that we talk about, you're going to be able to access there, so you don't have to worry about, where you're going to keep it.
Fountas and Pinnell Classrooms, if you're not a member on Facebook with Fountas and Pinnell Classrooms, you're going to want to be. They put things up daily. Some of it are daily bits, like the one that's up here. Some of them have videos of classrooms, pictures, information. It's just, Facebook is really, I have like 7 friends on Facebook. One of them is Fountas Pinnell Classroom. It's great. So I'm going to pass off to Linda.
You see our 4 resources that we are starting off with, right? You've got your Continuum, we've got a guided reading book, and we also have the 2 spiral-bound prompting guides, correct? And we'll take a look at those deeper throughout our day. Oh yeah, and we have a sample of, what do they call this, a guide?
Called System Guide.
System guide. So there's one for each of the components we'll be getting to, and it will kind of lay out how it should look and what it will do and what you should be teaching. And again, it's just a suggested guidance. Remember that. So I want you to just take 30 seconds and talk at your table. What do you know about balanced literacy? What are the components? What does it look like in your classroom? You get 30 seconds to talk at your table. What are a few things you talked about at your table? What do you know about balanced literacy? Okay, imaginary sticks. Should I draw out some names? Because I know enough of you in here. Lauren. Shared reading. What else? Shared writing. What else? Interactive writing. What else? Modeled writing. What else? Guided reading. What else? Read alouds. Independent reading. Independent writing. What else? Print-rich environment. Guided writing also. How do we accomplish those things in our classroom? Yes, you do. We work really hard, don't we? We work hard creating those lessons, figuring out which books will help me teach what I need to teach, my standards, right? Somebody's taken some of that off of our shoulders for us. Not me. Fountas and Pinnell has, okay? They have created this system that is going to give us lessons for guided reading. Not enough to do the whole year, unfortunately, but enough. We're getting enough to do shared reading. We're getting lessons written for us for interactive writing. And of course, do I have to follow them? No, because it's just a suggestion, it's a resource. All right, because this slide is really yucky and hard to read, this is kind of how Fountas and Pinnell has designed your day. It starts off with our interactive read aloud, which is whole class. And you got a paper coming for this, okay? So that's done whole class. That's kind of our time to be our direct teaching if you want, okay? Several other things are done whole class. Your reading mini lessons, your shared reading, shared in or interactive writing, writing mini lessons, and word study. Then you've got your components that are independent, right? So you've got independent literacy work, independent reading and writing, right? And some other things. And then we have our small group instruction. So everything is laid out. A lot of us are already doing this, right? We've got all this going on in our classroom. They're just helping support us, right? And you can see how it's kind of color-coded down at the bottom also. So here's what our language arts block could look like. Okay. Any questions or thoughts so far?
Read aloud. When we talked about our balanced literacy components, we've always said read aloud. It's now being called an interactive read aloud. And those of you that have followed throughout the years, it has changed over time. And it's really the children's first dose. So we're talking about an interactive read aloud. Often when teachers come in to HUSD and have not had any background in balanced literacy, they're a mite bit overwhelmed. This is going to help a lot. Literally, for the new teachers coming in who don't maybe not know anything about balanced literacy, or maybe coming with all of it. But let's say you're sick on a certain day and you need to leave lesson plans. You'll now literally have your lesson plans written for you, because there's a full lesson plan for interactive read aloud, one for shared reading, one for guided reading, and one for independent reading conferring. They're linked to designated and integrated instruction for our ELs. But again, this is just a guide. This is just a sample. For someone walking in that's a guest teacher, every word they need to say is on this card. For you, as experienced teachers, you're going to look at it as a resource. But that's how explicit they have written these. As far as the interactive read aloud, oftentimes people think, well, guided reading, that's where they learn how to read. They have to get those strategies before they're in that guided reading, and it starts in the interactive read aloud. So the interactive read aloud, every classroom, K through 2, will be getting 120 read aloud texts. Every classroom will be getting 120 interactive read aloud text, along with the lesson plan that goes with it, that is just a resource. You don't have to follow it, but it's there to support you. The interactive read alouds are coming in what they're calling text sets. So they've grouped 5 to 7 titles that they're looking to lay out certain strategies at the grade levels, and that'll be the children's first exposure. I know, if we could just zoom in on Jerry Carr's face right now, tells it all. How many of you went to garage sales and begged and borrowed kindergarten teachers to borrow their books? Yeah. Each classroom's getting 120 for your grade level with the strategies that can be found in the literacy continuum. And they'll be in text sets, so you can pick or choose where you want to go. Yes? It is per teacher. The interactive read alouds are 120 trade books you can get from the library, 120 per teacher, so that will last you the year. You'll have enough interactive read alouds for the full year. So what happens in an interactive read aloud? Those of you that have been doing interactive read alouds, I can tell you when I crack this book, which you can see, I haven't even started highlighting yet because I would have had to highlight every line. I have my Post-its. I started reading interactive read aloud and got, Croft, you thought you knew what was going on? Guess again. It's deep. It's good. You can take it at the surface level, and our children will be brilliantly prepared. For those of you that have been around read alouds and interactive read alouds for a while, there's more in there than you could have ever thought of. So it will deepen all of our professional development along the way. Questions on interactive read alouds. How will they be stored? It's one thing you want to know, right? So you have 120 of them. They're coming in what I call a magazine holder. You know, the holders, the magazine holders. And then there's 4 or 5, like a book box. You know, cut the cereal box edge off. Yeah, those kind of things. But they're much sturdier than cereal boxes. And then they'll be set in a box itself. So there'll be 4 or 5 of those magazines in a box lid. And there'll be 120 of these. And inside will be the text. So that's how your interactive read alouds are coming.
If you've never heard of the phrase interactive read aloud, don't be embarrassed. We found that at our last one. We had a lot of people go, what is that? But if you're familiar with it, you know it's really time consuming to prepare for it, because the idea behind an interactive read aloud is you're looking at this text with specific strategies that you want to share with your kids, and you have to read the book, and you have to figure out your stopping points, and you have to figure out, you know, how you're going to do it. It's time consuming. I've done it. So that's why when I saw this, I'm like, I'm so jealous. So it's going to take like Paulette said earlier, this is going to take a lot of planning time off your plate too, while we're giving kids good strategies.
Interactive read alouds. Questions? Yes, Lee. Let me check my magic. Let me see. No. Okay, but what I can, but because Heinemann has been so very supportive of us, I can't even imagine. I don't know why they carry about little bitty HUSD, but they do. I mean, daily, we need this. Okay. They overnighted this. I can't even imagine how much it cost them to do that. What they have already done is given us our shared reading titles. The shared reading titles were all written specifically for Fountas Pinnell Classroom. So we've never seen them before. They're all new text, and Irene and Gesu have looked over them and given their stamp of approval. So they just sent us last night all the list of the shared reading books, which won't really do us any good right now because we can't even put our hands on them. But the interactive read alouds are trade books. So what they're doing is they can't release all the titles yet because they're still in negotiation of paying for those. But because we're HUSD and they love us, for some reason, they're sending us the first title of the first set of text sets. So we will know the first text set. So what I'm doing, and she's not here and she won't see this video, what I'm doing for my sister who teaches at Topaz, I'm going to buy her the first 7 interactive trade book read alouds because they'll be good for a classroom library and she get started. Even if you don't have those, you know right now, tell your neighbor one of the first 2 books you're going to read aloud to your kids this year. Tell them. You know what they are. Tell them, what do you read to your kids first month of school? Okay? So, you know what book you're going to read, right? In your hands, you can go right to the Literacy Continuum and look under Interactive Read Aloud. Don't do it now. I know I'll lose you. I'll lose you. I know I will. And everything is color-coded. So purple is Interactive Read Aloud. Or you can go here, and this is what I strongly suggest, is your prompting guide 2. Is all the things you wished you could remember to say when you're doing an interactive read aloud with your children. And it's already here. So in about 30 minutes, we're going to cut you loose. We're going to give you the interactive read aloud folder so you can actually see a lesson interactive read aloud folder. You'll be able to break out your prompting guide 2s and kind of put it all together. If you look on the handout, the colored handout we just gave you on the back, these are merely suggestions. Gesu Pinnell and Irene Fountas know that you are expert teachers. It is not expected that you stay to the infinite timeline, the infinite page number, anything like that. These are suggestions from research. But if you look at the interactive read aloud, about how many minutes do they think that'll take you a day? 15. Questions on interactive read aloud? All right, can Draco shared reading? So before I move on, I forgot the slide. Whole group of class instruction for interactive read aloud. Whole class, babies at your feet or wherever they are. During there, that you're going to read aloud, the children, you're teaching them. This is the I do, let me tell you something new kind of situation. Texts are beyond the instructional text level of most children. Children are listening and viewing the illustrations, and the text-based discussions help children construct meaning. I will also tell you that well over 50% of the texts are nonfiction. I will also tell you that built in are units if you want to bring in some other writing, social studies, science pieces as well.
How many of you are familiar with shared reading? I'm thinking probably most of the people in the room. So you know that this is, shared reading is typically done whole group. This is also, way back, I'm going back to the Sandbelt days for a minute, there was a book called To With and By. Do you remember who wrote that book? To With and By was a book about how, and it's what balanced literacy is based on, that we do things to the children, not mean things, no. So we're going to read to the children, we're going to write to the children, and then it's the gradual release model. Then we're going to write with the children, we're going to read with the children, and then it's on their own. And that's kind of what the whole philosophy is based on. So shared reading is our first step in doing it with them. So we're going to have a big book. I don't know if you know the history of shared reading. It came from Don Haldaway, and I believe he's in New Zealand. He wanted to mimic how kids who came to school very literate came from homes that were literate, that had parents who read to them. And he said, how can I mimic that in the classroom? So he said, well, what if because instead of having your child on your lap reading the book, we're going to take the text and we're going to blow it up. So that's how that all started. The shared reading actually started way back in the 70s. And so this is where you're going to, it's the next part of your interactive read aloud. We're still working on our strategies, but now we're going to invite the students to be reading with them. You're still reading a text that's above their instructional level, but it's going to be a little bit closer than your interactive read aloud because now this is times where they're going to be repetitive time and we're going to be showing things out. Let me see. I can't see from an angle. So, well, you can see what you're getting. So this is, again, per teacher. So kindergarten teachers, you are going to have 65 shared reading books. Think about, typically when we did this before, we usually did one big book a week, right? Well, how many weeks do we have in our school year? We have plenty of shared reading books. So it's probably 2 a week is what I would expect. First grade, also 65. Second grade, 30, because you're going to be moving away from that. But there is still value. I think there's value to do shared reading with upper grade kids. Well, as a matter of fact, when Renee and I were teaching at Mesa, and she was a SPED teacher, and I worked in her room as a support teacher, we used to do shared reading, and she had 4th and 5th graders in there, and we worked on things. So there's value in all grade levels. They also come, which is kind of nice, with the little 6-pack of books. So you could be doing shared reading, and then you could use it for an independent writing or reading center, or whatever it is that you want to use with your expertise. They also have the folders. They come with printable lessons, so when you go onto the online, there's all kinds of things that you can be doing with it, or you're going to do with it what you know how to do best. Again, like Paulette said, it's a resource for us. One thing, we were watching a webinar, and we're such nerdy elementary teachers because we're like, ooh, you know how we get excited about those things? Ooh. So they showed a picture of the big books. They're on a rolly cart. All of you go, ooh. So they all come, because that's a big issue. And I know we have some administrators here, which we appreciate coming, but storage is going to be an issue. Oh, yeah.
These are actually the kind that you're getting, and they have fold-outs and peek-through windows and...
Oh, see, I told you. Ooh, all of you. Who needs a tissue? It's so beautiful. I have to tell you, when I first heard about this, and we were in a conference call, and we hung up, and I actually said, I think I need a tissue. That's so beautiful. I'm so happy. Anyways, so it's wonderful. I think that you're going to, so you can see, yes. I believe so, Paulette. If that's it says audio. Is it going to be on that they can access on their Chromebooks, or yeah? Yeah. So you can take. So you have those 6 little books that come with it. So maybe the week after you've done it. No, see, I told you we're so nerdy. My peeps. I love it when people are as nerdy as me.
Lauren is getting so excited she can't stand herself.
Well, I'm right there with you, sister. So just a reminder, as I said, typically shared reading is whole group instruction. There might be a time where you have a group that you want to do something with that you might do, as your RTI, whatever it is, that you're going to use your professional expertise. But the system is set up for that to be a whole group where you're teaching those strategies. Yeah, I can't read it on this angle. Make sure I don't miss, I'm not going to read it to you. If you're teaching children to read, I think you can, I'm hoping you can all read. How many of you love doing shared reading with kids? See, it's so fun.
And through the Literacy Continuum, they have linked those strategies in Interactive Read Aloud right into those shared reading books for us. Those of you that have spent many hours, many hours, they're giving you as suggestions. You can still do whatever you'd like, whatever is best for your children. And so we're going to move on to guided reading, and Julie.
All right, and so guided reading, obviously you are going to be either doing your DRAs or your words their way spelling inventories to try and figure out what groupings you'll have for your guided reading. This actually has its own assessment tool, but was not purchased. It was not part of the adoption. I know some school sites actually purchase it separately, so they will probably be using that to make their groups. So you'll be using your guided reading. You are also actually going to be sharing your guided reading sets with, I thought it was 2, but it's 3 teachers. So if you have 4 teachers at a grade level, you'll get 2 sets. They suggest that it be stored kind of in a book room so that you have access to all the different levels. I know some of my teachers have said, like 2nd grade, well, what if I need a K level? I mean, what if I run out of titles? Can I borrow from 1st or 2nd grade, or or from K? And I mean, in my opinion, I think they should be open to everybody, and that if there could be stored in
a book room where everybody has access. I think that would be the best use of them. But I mean, I think it's up to your sites how you're gonna. Yeah, and I know like some of the levels will overlap as well. So, and there are no duplicate titles, I believe. So if you.
Freshly written for Fountas Pinnell Classroom.
Right.
We've never seen these titles.
But the level A in kindergarten are not the same titles as the level A in first. Is that correct?
There are no duplicates.
No duplicates. That's what I've heard. So if you run out of A's in your grade level, you can go to your next grade level and grab. So you should be able to do that. And they are coming in sets of 6. Also with the lesson folder, which is just so nice because if you have 5 or 6 groups and doing a guided reading, laying that out for each that's super time consuming. And this is just done for you. Gives you the book introduction and all that you need to work through that. Also has the other resources, the printable lessons, and the recording forms. So any questions about guided reading? Okay. Oh, I'm going to jump in and.
Just some clarification on a couple things. As far as the benchmark assessment system, when I was trained by Gay Sue Pinnell and Irene Fountas for level literacy intervention, at that time they said whatever you have at your school site is fine. You don't need to buy ours. Many of us have moved on and do not use the cold read, independent read, stop instruction for 2.5 weeks for the children and are merely getting them in guided reading right away and then taking running records, and then we have authentic data on the children right away and we don't have to stop our teaching to do so. For those of you who still like to stop and do an independent cold read, every school site still has the DRA kits, which have text level books in them. Or you can use any device that your school site has decided on if that's the way you want to go. You'll also notice that it says recording forms at the bottom. And I have already one-on-one talked to Gay Sue Pinnell and Irene Fountas about this, and I said, wait a minute. Our teachers know how to do running records. We don't need to go back to reading records. We know how to do running records, and you get so much more information from running records. So those of you that know how to do running records, please keep doing them. The reading records are for our babies or our newbies, that is a huge task to take on right away and to use the reading records, but we still continue to do running records because those of us that have done both know that there's a huge difference of what to do with that. So I'm going to...
I just also was thinking while you were talking, one of the slides in your classroom has the equivalency, like if you have the DRA and you're looking to see what it is for Fountas and Pinnell or even your Words Their Way study, it will tell you across. So if you are just doing running records and your school site wants a DRA level, you can see where your running record level is and then just give that DRA level as your...
And we have included the up-to-date version of text level correlation. At one time, we were going up to level C, text level 3, and running reading recovery levels for our kindergarten. It's D next year, guys. In order for them to be ready to roll, they need to be at a D. Don't panic. First grade is moving up. I can say my alphabet. From an I to a J, and then everything else is staying the same. But those new text level conversions are on the Google Classroom. And there was something else I was going to tell you, and it's gone. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen.
So next is the independent reading. And you will be getting, per teacher, 150 titles of trade stories. So, for example, like the Polar Express or Tacky the Penguin. I'm not sure if we're getting those titles, but that's just an example. Also, you will be getting conferring cards that you can talk to the kids about. This would also help with or can be connected to cafe strategies if you're doing the cafe in your classroom. And again, tons of online resources and printable lessons. Everybody knows what independent reading is, right? We don't really need to go over that part. And some other components got it, Linda. That will come with the system is the phonics lessons, and again the comprehensive phonics and word study guides. This will only be for kindergarten and first grade. Second grade is not developed yet. We still want to do words their way. So, but this is just some more components that will be coming with the system. Any questions on it, Lee? Those are actually books that you'll be getting. They're like 3-ring notebooks.
It's dual format. You'll be getting 3. You'll be getting a binder, which gives you your lessons. You'll also be getting a poetry book to do sing-along chants to go along with the strategies as well. You'll also be getting a phonics word study and a student pack of Blackline Masters as well if you choose to use those. Again, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have words their way. This will be a companion. It shouldn't supplant, but should supplement. Again, these are your resources to use as you'd like.
I want to also piggyback on something that Kathleen said when she talked about the cafe strategies. How many of you already use Daily 5 in your classroom? I knew there was a lot of people. I know some sites really dove into it. This system fits beautifully in Daily 5. So if you're already doing Daily 5 and you have that structure and you have that ability to, work with your small groups, and they even reference a lot of the things that we do in Daily 5 in the book. Because this is really, we aren't calling it a program because this isn't a program. This is a system of how we respond to kids' literacy needs, basically, and a structure for us to put it together. So that was one thing that was exciting for me because I love Daily 5, and I thought, ooh, this is perfect for that. Okay.
So putting it all together, again, here's that little time frame for us. Just a suggested framework that for kinder, first and second grade. Kinder, 30 minutes for centers, and first and second, the same, 30 minutes. So if you got cafe and Daily 5 going on in your classroom, you know when you can pull the kids. But there is this nice framework that they have to help us.
That's been a lot of information. Questions? Yes. As soon as they let us know, we will let you know. My guess, only a guess, what is it? That we'll have access to online before we'll actually have them in our hands. But you're professionals, you know what you're going to do for a read aloud at the beginning of the year. Plan it, use your prompting guide, your literacy continuum, move forth, and then when the materials arrive, it's Christmas. Yes.
As a former special education teacher, I feel I have to ask for a special education teacher or one set be provided.
What Daryl Nicolaisen decided was that any SAI teacher who is teaching Tier 1 instruction will be receiving everything for every grade level they have in front of them. So if at one of my school sites we have half the day our K3 children are half a day in a self-contained classroom for literacy instruction, their first dose, the response to intervention first dose. So that teacher will be getting a full K set, a full first grade set, a full second grade set, and a full third grade set. Upper grade, I think, is 4 through 6. They will be getting National Geographic for 4th, 5th, and 6th. If your SAI teachers are delivering that that Tier 2 dose, they will not be getting. They can borrow from the classroom teachers, but they're considered a classroom teacher for materials if they are delivering the first best dose. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Christy?
National Geographic is what grade you get?
National Geographic is 3rd through 6th, and it is awesome. And the nonfiction they have in there, the books that you'll be getting for small groups, using the literacy continuum right along with it, so you have that K6 coherent focus would be an awesome idea. And I know that a certain principal in this room has already got that together for their school site, so kudos. That's it. It's that K-8 coherence continuum literacy. When we let you peruse this, you're going to see red diamonds. Everyone say red diamonds. Red diamonds. Those will be the new strategy that's coming in at a certain level. So they'll be black and you're like, oh, we've done those, but here's the new one. So it's even color-coded to that degree. Any other questions? We're good? Something that you cannot read on the screen, but I just could not overlook, the International Reading, let's see, they changed their name. ILA just did a huge survey of teachers, of administrators, of what's hot and what is, no, wait, I got it. International Literacy Association, they wanted to know what was hot and what was important. So there's a difference. What's hot is what everybody's talking about, and then what's important. Well, I can tell you that they narrowed it down to 10 things of all the things we do in literacy. Number 2, yep, early literacy is both hot and important. Woohoo! So, again, HUSD is on the cutting edge, and we're moving forward. I understood they would be living to your room for a test drive. Okay, you're game? All right. Couple of things we want you to know. Thanks to Mrs. Peters, who wishes I wouldn't have just said that, has totally redesigned our district website. For those of you that have continually and religiously gone there, there's been lots of things. Many of you haven't signed on for years, and you may want to get back in the groove. It's revised, has lots of information. One of the things that you can get to is we compiled a huge list of resources, not just for Fountas Pinnell Classroom, but for literacy, for math, for science. If you click on that, there's webinars on every single one of these sections, and we have watched them all at least once. There's also Fountas Pinnell website that you can get on and join, and we'll help you do that when we move into our work time. Also, Facebook we mentioned as well. So we'll help you get on to Fountas Pinnell Classroom. It's free, a membership, and you can get on a boatload of resources. So when we start work time, we'll move that way. And I think with that, I'm turning it over to Linda.
So if you could, we're going to kind of do things a little bit out of order. Do our feedback first, and then we'll give you some time to look through resources and share out some other materials with you. But if you could go to this link, please. Remember, it's case sensitive, those of us that have computers. If not, no big deal. So it's bit.ly/uppercase F, uppercase P, uppercase C, underscore, uppercase F, and then the word feedback. This PowerPoint will be put into the classroom also probably by next week. It's vacation. So by next week, this will be in here, and then all these links will be live when we were showing that other slide. So when you go to the presentation, you'll be able to click on those links, and it'll take you to where you want to go. Is it working? All right, I didn't hear any grumbling, so I assumed it was. All right, are we about done with the survey so we can get to the good stuff? I'm going to let you loose here in a few moments. I want you to take a look, if you have your computer, if not, share it, in Google Classroom. There are samplers for each grade level. So K can find theirs, first can find theirs, second can find theirs. Okay. Also, I want you to take a look through your continuum. Find, and it is great. They color-coded everything for us, right? So nice. So the continuum is written out by grade level. So once you find, interactive read aloud, there's going to be some description about it, and then you can look for your grade level about what should be taught during interactive read aloud time. So you can go through your book and kind of bookmark it. There's Post-its at your table. Find your sections, find your grade level. Also, we're going to pass out some samples of the lessons, okay? So you can take a closer look at what it actually is going to look like and what you'll see. You'll notice they have nice, what do you want to call those, notes about how to connect it to your EL learners. There's notes about how to connect it to the prompting guides and how to use it, right? So it gives us our objectives, what grade level it's for. We do ask, though, that you not take these home because we want to continue to keep using them. This is all we got. So we still have an orientation tomorrow also, so please don't take home these. What else am I missing? Questions, thoughts? You might want to take also the time to find Fountas Pinnell literacy website. Get yourself logged in. It's free, so there's no cost to that. Get yourself logged in so you can start looking at the webinars and all that during your free time because we know how much you're going to want to read over summer. Okay, questions, thoughts? No? All right, go ahead.
On the cheat sheet, if you look at Paulette's book or my book over here, you'll see that we have 16,000 billion Post-it notes because we're trying to find things on here. But on the cheat sheet, for example, so just I want to highlight a couple things if you want to go to them. So if you want to look about interactive read aloud, you want to maybe watch a webinar over vacation to learn more about it. They're not Academy Award winners, but there's some interesting information. And it also tells you what pages to find things. So if you wanted to, so you could take some time today if you want to mark things. You can also get online samplers on there. So you can click on your grade level and get a sampler for everything. So that's on there. And then the one last one, another great one to look at from your classroom is this. These are all live links for you. So go play.
Until 12. I have a scholastic book order I need to get so I can go